CBs. Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you everything that you have to do to get a lawn tractor started that's been sitting for a long time. Now, this tractor in particular sat for about 5 years in my neighbor's yard. I ended up getting it for free because I fixed their snowblower and they gave it to me as collateral. So I went over there with my green lawn tractor, hooked it up to the trailer, pulled it home, unloaded it, and here we are. Just a disclaimer, this video is for people who know how to turn a wrench and want to turn a wrench. I'm not going to show you how to do every little thing, but I'm going to explain the process so you understand what to do to get your tractor running. Now, the first thing I like to do is see what kind of condition the oil's in. Now, if the oil is dark but doesn't look cloudy or anything like that, you're probably in good shape. I did an oil change on this, so that's why this looks so good. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is check your battery. Well, this is the battery that was in the tractor. It's 6 years old and sat for a long time, so I knew it was going to be toast. I put it on a trickle charger for 2 days, and it basically didn't hold any charge, so I had to swap it out. So I wound up swapping in this brand new guy from Tractor Supply. It cost around 50 bucks. Now, you're going to want to check your air filter as well for a few reasons. Not only to see if it's good or not, but also to see if critters made its way in here. This one I have replaced, and there's no debris from critters, so we're good to go there. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is check your spark plug. So you can see this wire coming out from right here, and you see the boot right there, and then they're white porcelain. That's your spark plug. So go ahead and pop that boot off and then pull that spark plug out. If your spark plug looks like this and it's relatively clean and there's no carbon buildup, then you're good to go. But if it's all black and built up with carbon, just go get a new one. They're like $4. All right, so you have to check your battery, your spark plug, and make sure you have oil in there and make sure your air filter is decent. But I guarantee you're gonna have to clean the fuel system. Let me show you what you have to do. And the reason for that is because modern fuel has ethanol in it, and ethanol will gum up your carburetor if you leave it sitting for too long. So you need to get all that bad fuel out before you start disassembly. Not all lawn tractors are made the same, but they all have the same basic principles. This is your fuel line right here that goes all the way to the tank, but it goes to this little fuel pump right here. Yours may be gravity fed, but you want to find the fuel line that goes all the way to the tank. Now, your tank might be here, or it might be behind the seat like mine, but it's always going to be the one that's going back. So find that fuel line, and then you're going to want to disconnect it from either the filter, or if it goes right to the carburetor, you want to disconnect it there and let all that fuel drain out into a bowl. Now, again, not all lawn tractors are built the same, but they typically have 2 bolts holding it onto the tractor. You have one here and one on the other side. So go ahead and take those bolts off. Of course, you would have already disconnected the fuel line. And if you have one of those sensors like this one does, go ahead and disconnect that. Now, again, depending on what kind of tractor you have, you may have to unbolt the intake manifold, which should be a bolt right here and a bolt right up there. And then you're going to disassemble your carburetor and clean it, which is actually pretty simple. Now, this is a carburetor off of a different project that I'm working on, but the principles are the same. So when you look at the carb like this, right here, that's your bowl. And this is the nut that holds the bowl on. So you want to go ahead and remove that, and then your bowl will come off. And when your bowl's off, you're going to see your float. That's the bouncy thing right here. Now, right here is called your float pin. You're going to want to go ahead and push that out and remove that. Now, once that's removed, your float should lift right out. And then you see that dangly thing right there? That's called your float needle. Now, what I like to do is use an ultrasonic cleaner. These things throw waves and vibration through the cleaning solution and really gets in all the tough, gunky parts of a carburetor that need to be cleaned out. Now, if you don't have one of these, what you can do is use carb choke cleaner. They cost like $4 or $5 at the auto parts store. What you want to do is you want to spray in every single part of this, all around it, every single hole, and then you can use compressed air to blow everything out. Now, this is a tip cleaner for welding and cutting torches. These are great because there's several different sizes of pieces here. And if you have a really small piece, kind of like this guy right here, and you need to snake something in to poke out any debris in there, these things are great for that. And then when you're done and your carburetor is completely clean, everything's blown out, you can put everything back together the way you took it apart and then put it back on the tractor. Now, one more thing I have to mention, and not all lawn tractors have this, but a fuel pump. This is driven by vacuum, which connects on the other side of your engine here, and then it pulls fuel from the tank through this line into the carburetor. You want to make sure this is good to go. These are like $7. Instead of cleaning if they're bad, I'd recommend just buying a new one, putting it on there so you know you're good to go. And now we'll talk about these fuel lines, baby. Now, if you have these old black fuel lines and they've been sitting here with bad gas for a number of years, chances are they're going to be collapsed or they could be breaking down from the inside. So you're going to want to swap those out. Now, I got these clear fuel lines from my local hardware store. They were like $1.75 a foot, so I just bought 10 feet to be ready for future projects. So what you should do is swap out your existing fuel lines with all the clear plastic ones. I like them because you can see if there's any debris floating through, and it's just better to have them clear like that so you know that there's nothing breaking down like these old fuel lines will. A disclaimer, I will be putting hose clamps on all of these, but I just got this running, so I don't have them on there right now. But you want to make sure you have hose clamps. But what I'm trying to say is you want to replace all of your fuel lines with this good fuel line. So go ahead and disconnect everything. Basically, just take the fuel line that you're replacing, pull it off, and lay it next to a piece of this new fuel line, and then cut to size, and it should fit perfectly. But there's one thing you got to remember, and it has to do with this fuel line going to the tank. Now, when you replace the fuel line that goes to the tank, it's either going to go up here if the tank is right here, which clearly isn't, because mine is in the rear. So you can see right here, the fuel line is connected to the petcock, which goes into the bottom of the fuel tank. Now that black ring right there is a grommet. If you pull too hard, that grommet will come out, and it may not be good when you put it back in. So you want to make sure you're very careful when you're removing that fuel line from the petcock. And the last thing about the fuel system, guys, is make sure you have a good fuel filter coming from the tank into either the pump or going to the carburetor. Because if there's any debris coming from the tank, it's going to hit the filter, and this will make sure you don't have any bad stuff going from the gas tank into your carburetor. So to recap things, we made sure we had oil in the engine. We checked the spark plug to make sure that was decent. We checked the air filter to make sure that was decent. And then we completely cleaned the fuel system. So the last thing is to do an oil change. All right, so looking at the side of the engine, you want to go down right here, and this is where you're going to drain your oil. Now, luckily, the previous owner installed one of these guys where you just turn it sideways and then pull it out, and the oil drains right out of here. But if you don't have this, it should just be a bolt that you back out, and the oil drains right out. Now, what you can do is get a floor jack and just jack it up on this side so the oil drains out nicely over there. Make sure you have a good catch pan on the other side. Should be about a quart and a half. Okay, to recap, you made sure that your fuel system was clean. You cleaned the carburetor. You replaced all the fuel lines. You cleaned or replaced the fuel pump if applicable. You also put a new fuel filter on there. You did your oil change and added the factory recommended oil. And you made sure your air filter was either good or replaced. And you either charged or replaced your battery. And guys and gals, the last thing to do is put fresh fuel in the tank and let her rip. Well, guys, like I said, this tractor sat for about 5 years in my neighbor's yard, and I did all the things I just showed you. And if you do everything that I just told you to do, you'll get results like this. Well, guys, I really hope this video helped you. I wasn't going for a video where I actually took everything apart and showed you how to do everything. Like as I said before, this is more meant for people who are kind of handy, just need some advice on what to do to get their tractor going. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Stay classy. CBs.